Video for this. You're like 3 of them, man. Yes.
Where?
The one for the pep rally.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to
Everyone's probably going. We should go like near the simulator. Everybody be working for me. And I think this is back as much.
Scout breaks down into 3 fundamental questions. First question, is there life out there? How about it, Viking?
I am Viking. First Earth spacecraft to touch down on Mars. Prime mission, test for signs of life. I am Viking.
The Viking's a pretty old design these days. Excuse the way he talks.
I am Viking. Martian soil tested. Signs of life at this location. Inconclusive. I am Viking.
Roger that, Viking. Voyager 1 and 2, what have you seen?
We are Voyager. Titan scans complete. Planetary conditions resemble those of Earth before life evolved.
Will we find life on Titan? It's going to take one tough robot to check it out. Cassini, status report, please.
This is Cassini. Mission in progress. Studying the Saturn system. I'm sorry you couldn't be with me, Starquester. How's that navigational subprocessor?
Still the same, I'm afraid.
Sorry to hear that.
Excuse us. Cassini and I were together in training and haven't talked in a while.
Starquester was grounded when his navigational subprocessor was broken in training.
I hope to have it replaced and regain my flight status when mission priorities allow. Anyway, resuming tour. The second question is, can humans live here? What do you think, Viking?
I am Viking. Martian soil contains oxygen, hydrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, chlorine.
Thanks, Viking. Thanks. I think we got it.
Lunar prospector here. There is evidence of water ice on the moon.
Oxygen in the soil on Mars. Possibly water on the moon. All the elements humans need to survive are up there. It's just a matter of time before you follow in our tracks. The third question, and this one's the big one, how does the universe work? Hubble, this is Robot Command. Tell our visitors what you see out there.
Outside of Earth's atmosphere, I can see to the ends of the universe. I have seen billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. I can see almost back to the beginning of time itself.
Hubble is studying objects so far away that it takes millions of years for their light to reach us. So when you look into the night sky, you're actually seeing how it was billions of years ago.
I have documented supernovas moving faster than scientists can explain. Perhaps one day humans can learn to harness these forces.
You send us to find answers. Our answers also create more questions. It's all theoretical now, but when humans travel the galaxies, they are going to use principles of physics developed from the information obtained by Hubble.
Attention, mission simulation is about to commence.
If you hurry, you can see some of our newest recruits being put through their paces as they become robot scouts, trailblazers for human exploration.
Mission simulation is now T-minus.
Well, hello, you're just in time. Today we're testing how well our new smart probes solve problems on their own. You see, because of the time it takes to send a message across the solar system, these little guys can't always rely on instructions from Earth getting there in time to help them out of a problem. And that can mean total automated system termination.
Or as we like to say, toast.
That's right. Now, why don't you go ahead and explain today's simulation while I upload the software?
Certainly. Today's simulation is for mission RE793. Objective, Mars. Prime purpose, can human life be sustained there? Simulation commences at mission elapsed time, 7 months from launch.
Okay, Searcher 1, commence your descent.
Roger that. Firing braking thrusters.
All right. Let's see how this new software handles the problem.
Whoa, I think I lost the thrusters here. I'm not slowing down enough.
Calibrate your other thrusters, Searcher 1. Get it back.
All right, doing that now. Compensating. Okay, I'm hovering and descending to the surface. Touchdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Sorry.
All right, Searcher 1. It looks like you have a bug in your altitude ranging system. We'll work on it. All right, deploy surface rover.
Deploying rover. Rover deployed.
Mars rover, commence your scans.
Roger that. Camera's coming online. Video is online. Robot command. I have discovered life on Mars. A group of carbon-based life forms sitting right here.
Rover.
Their duplication of cashmere on Earth is uncanny.
Knock off the jokes, Rover. Let's get on with it.
Commencing study of rock composition now.
When humans go to Mars, they won't be able to take a lot of supplies with them. By analyzing the rocks and soil, robots can tell you how much you can live off the land when you get here.
Touching radiation line. Danger. Radiation exceeds human tolerances.
What is your status, Rover?
I'm fine, but the astronauts are going to need a whole new design of spacesuit to survive out here. Transmitting data now.
Roger that. Missions like the one we're practicing here send back massive amounts of raw data, information that's essential to the planning of human missions. We have chased comets and flown into deep space with an important purpose, to aid humans in their inevitable expansion to the planets and beyond.
Okay, why don't we invite our guest over to the think tank so they can actually see what we do with all that data that we get back from them? I'll switch over the camera feed.
You are clear. This room we call the think tank. Now in this room we're studying extended human state on Mars.
Ah, yes, tricky. You humans are quite sensitive to radiation and extreme climate. And your need to eat and breathe oxygen is, well, challenging.
Well, not everyone can survive on solar power, Star Person. Now, the first thing we do is study the data that you guys send back to us, and we show you how we can use what you found for solar.
That's right. May I study your findings?
Absolutely. Interface away.
Radiation from space will have to be shielded. But you plan to cover living structures with Martian soil for protection. You plan to extract water from vapor in the atmosphere or permafrost in the soil. This will be used for hydroponic farming. Most impressive, Nadine, a plan for how humans will live on Mars.
Well, thanks to you guys. Now, with so human imagination and perseverance, your information can transcend.
I believe the correct human idiomatic expression would be, whoa.
And then, This is humankind's first long-term home on Mars.
Impressive indeed.
And the robot stuff has been essential to our design, so I thought a little reward might be in order.
Well, to explore and serve are their own rewards.
I thought you might like this.
A new beneficial subprocessor. My high game systems are back online.
Which means that you are go for flight status.
All right. Calling all robot scouts. Calling all robot scouts.
The ticket here starts by
432 555. This is home.
I am liking.
My navigational system has been repaired. Returning to flight status. To the planet and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse me. There are unexplored planets out there. Someone's got to go take a look. Robot scouts, trailblazers for human exploration.
We'll need to know more before we're sure of exactly what we're building on Mars. But thanks to the Robot Scouts, we're well on the way to a home on the alien world. And so the next room and experience what living on Mars would be like for the first human explorers.
Two days out of Earth. 2 days are 24.6 hours long, and the Martian year lasts for 687 days. If you hear the decompression alarm, please proceed to a safe area and turn on your spaces. Welcome to Mars.
Mars Base 1, this is Mars Base 2.
We read you, Base 2.
Base 1, we finished final checks on the backup RTGs. Is there anything else you need us to work on?
We're busy, John. We're just going to kick back and enjoy the sunset. Oh, what's the weather like on your side of Mars?
Well, temperature's dropping fast. Pressure 125 below 0 Fahrenheit. Wind speeds from the dust storms and Olympus Mons are kicking up to about 110 miles an hour. Those rovers in the Caldera will be freezing their fenders off tonight.
They're tough. They can handle it.
You're right. Good night, Base 1.
Good night.
When people like us go to Mars to explore, this is the kind of place we're going to call home. Look around. Do you think you'd like to live here? It'll be pretty busy. It's a whole new world to explore. But at night, we'll get to watch a Martian sunset that's like nothing on Earth. Our robots are already telling us what we need to know to get here, but we'll need a few good human explorers to follow the trail for scouting. The Earth is our home, but our journey to the stars has already begun.
We're the Robot Scouts, trailblazers for human exploration.
Happy trails, Darkbuster.
Thank you for visiting Mars.
When I was a kid, I used to dream about flying through space. Every week on TV, I'd watch my heroes as they jumped into their rocket ships and took to the stars. And I wanted to be like them. They had courage, imagination, and no problem ever stood in their way for long. You know, in the end, when we actually did send men into space, it turned out that those were exactly the qualities it took.
I'm John Hudson. This is Pad 39 of the Kennedy Space Center. I was a launch controller here when from this very spot, man took off to fly to the moon. It was a journey that began 12 years before that rocket ever left the ground. And it started on the other side of the world. Back then, we were one of two superpowers that always seemed to be on the edge of a terrible war. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever man-made satellite into Earth orbit. They called it Sputnik, which means traveling companion. In a world where peace hung in a delicate balance, it seemed to create a dangerous advantage. Every ham radio operator in the battle could hear it beat. People were afraid. Were the Soviets looking down on us? watching us. If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. It was being called the space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space gift. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission from one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why the Bryce Place, Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We would have to design a rocket the size of a 36-story office building, put it together with the precision of a microscope, and accelerate it to the speed of a bullet. Then we would have to guide it to a moving target 250,000 miles away. Many people thought it was an impossible dream, but 400,000 of us set about making that dream a reality. It would be the longest, most hazardous voyage that any man had dared to attempt. But step by step, mission by mission, we orbited the Earth and perfected the skills and technologies we would need on this incredible journey. Our astronauts practiced maneuvering, docking, and the thousands other tasks that would comprise the moon mission. We created new alloys, lighter and stronger than anything seen before. We designed communication systems that would be reliable over the vast distance. And behind it all, we tried to perfect the rocket that would be powerful enough to punch out of Earth orbit and take us to the moon. One day, however, the dream of flying to the moon almost slipped away. It was January 27th, 1967. Astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were on board Apollo 1 for a plugs-out test, a full-scale dress rehearsal for the actual launch. Suddenly it happened. There was a fire in the capsule. 3 men whose lives had been in our hands were lost.
Surely the opening business of space promised high cost and hardship, as well as high reward. But this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them.
After Apollo 1, some thought we'd failed, and that the moon was out of our reach. But we owed it to those men to learn from their sacrifice and to carry on. We started taking the Apollo vehicle apart, piece by piece. Was the design flawed? Had safety been compromised? Tough questions. And we spent 1.5 years redesigning the spacecraft so that no astronaut's life would ever be at risk because we overlooked something, or because we could have done something better. A moon rocket is 91% high explosive, and it goes into the most unforgiving, hazardous environment there is. We could never make it risk-free, and the men who flew them knew that. We didn't send men into space again until Apollo 7 orbited the Earth testing some of the new design. When everything worked perfectly, the decision was made. The next mission would travel to the moon. It was mankind's destiny to leave the shores of our planet behind and strike out across the vast ocean of space. In the great span of our history, now was the time that we could. Now was the time that we would. We stood on the eve of the longest, most dangerous journey that any man had ever undertaken. And it would be taken by Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Andrews, the crew of Apollo 8. Through those doors, you'll find the firing room, launch control, just as it was on December 21st, 1968.
Please gather all of your...
This is the firing room, launch control for the Apollo mission. This is not a mock-up. These are the very consoles we sat in when men first took off to fly to the moon. The tragedy of Apollo 1 had put us a year and a half behind. We were making up for it in one big leap, and we were doing it with a rocket that no man had ever flown before. It was a few days before Christmas, 1968, when Apollo 8 sat on the pad. She was the first of a new kind, a moon rocket. This was the Phoenix, risen from the ashes of Apollo 1. The first Apollo crew did not die in vain. This was to be their testament. Stories high, she had been fully fueled throughout the night. The liquid oxygen in her tanks caused ice to form on the outside of the craft. The extreme temperature differences between the air and the sub-zero fuel caused the metal skin of the rocket to expand and contract. Everyone who was on the pad agreed. It was as though the rocket was alive, breathing, straining from each year. Early morning, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Andrews had made their final preparations before taking that long ride out to the main spacecraft. The minimum safe distance from Saturn V at liftoff was 3 miles. The reason was simple. When fully fueled, the rocket contained the explosive power of an atomic bomb. As the clock counted down, the astronauts and all of us in launch control went through the pre-flight checks. Our hands on the controls of the most powerful, most complex machine ever built. It had over 2 million separate systems. And to bring these men back alive, everything had to work perfect. Each individual system had been tested, but what we didn't know was how they would perform when all 2 million began to work together. That's when the countdown clock reached 0. If a maneuvering thruster failed, if communications broke down, if navigation was off by 1 degree, if any piece of the miles of wiring, circuits, relays, or valves was affected, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Andrews would pay with their lives. As they sat waiting for launch on that chill December morning, these 3 astronauts were back to what they had always been, test pilots. You are now in the final minutes before the launch of Apollo 8. Right here, where action actually happened. Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It's one of those rare moments
Still got
when
7 minutes.
history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
Hopefully not. Oh, no, never mind.
This is launch control. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We have completed our communications checks with the Apollo astronauts in the cabin, and communications are go. During this period, once we do get the firing command, the various tanks within the 3 stages of the Saturn V launch vehicle begin to pressurize. We have firing command. Firing command is right now on 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Our status board indicates that all aspects are ready, instrument unit is ready, spacecraft ready, final check of the emergency detection system, that ready, light also. First stage preparations are completed.
Okay. We're on. Ready to go to crossing. Everybody water? Okay, you're on.
All systems go. 45 seconds and counting. The first stage, the oxygen tank has been pressurized, and the pressure is still building up. Coming up in 90 seconds, minus 90 seconds and counting. All of the crew standing by, spacecraft commander Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. Now to report that the liquid hydrogen tank in the first stage is pressurized. 1 minute 15 seconds. All 3 stages of the propellants pressurized at this time as we come up on the 60-second mark on the flight to the moon. T-minus 60 seconds counting. The vehicle now is completely pressurized. Power transfer shortly. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the switchless aboard the spacecraft. 20 seconds, all aspects. We are steering forward at this time. 30 12, 11, 10.
Apollo 8 successfully orbited the moon. The astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of energetic people, the millions of people who supported the mission that made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those billboards, you'll find an actual sanctified moon line. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that can take you to another planet. I actually got to fly on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
Are you going to throw a phone up there?
I broke it.
Look what they've done. Yeah, they've accomplished so much on the moon already. Buildings behind some trees. Jeez. They made a space center on the moon too.